Oh, well, with that utterly eventful start to our podcast, with all kinds of interesting things, where Pottermore shows its really
Magical
how,
hand.
yes, how much effort you can put into something. Why don't we start with some little news bits of this week then?
What have you got for me?
Well, something that I picked up while I was trolling around the internet is apparently Hitman Absolution is going to come out November the 20th. So that
What
will
is
next.
Hitman?
I've not actually played the games, but I'm going to go with the assumption that you play a hitman. I think there's a bold character who has like the barcode on his head. I've not really played the games, but yeah, presumably the next one of those in the series should be quite interesting.
What's on the cover? Because I'm just assuming it's going to be a boxing match or something.
No, I think. Let me just go find the cover art now. We can pop this up in the background.
Apparently I'm putting this up in the background.
So as well as Hitman Absolution, you know the World of Warcraft subs have recently at least been dropping slowly but quite steadily.
Well, I know that, actually, we did record another podcast recently, which there was technical issues and the fact that neither of us, we both thought each other recorded. But, we came to the conclusion this was because of, Star Wars, The Old Republic, which was, I think, was like £10 a month, or maybe it might be, no, more than 10. It was like £15 to £20 a month, and you weren't even premium yet. You're just like borderline. More money equals better stuff, and it defeats the immersion with the fact that instead of using a real lightsaber, which goes through like droids like axe butter or whatever.
It was like a sword.
No, it wasn't even that. It was just like it was like an inflatable club. You just knocked them about a little. It was like a foam finger, effectively. You just went like whap 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 whap, and then finally they die. But yeah, that was insanely costly and not really that good. I mean, the PvP looks okay, but it's not really worth about £240 a year. Really, and also that's not even buying the game. The game was like 60 quid, so you're spending about £300 a year if you really want something that is immersion breaking. World of Warcraft, on the other hand, I'm slightly surprised. I mean, have they brought out like an expansion recently, or have they just been like forgetting about their clients and then suddenly shock horror they're leaving?
Well, I think they've been sort of slowly declining. I mean, they're a massive boom, but they're just not really sending out all that much content. Other stuff's coming out, a lot of it for free to play, but apparently their subs, for the moment at least, are starting to hold slightly steadier, but I don't expect them to really go up with sort of all these free to play and pretty high quality stuff coming out.
Like Tribes and TF2, which we're going to plug.
Talking of Tribes, they've actually released a new update recently with a couple of things in it. First off, if you describe to us the new Tartarus map.
That's basically Lothlorien in Lord of the Rings terms. Basically, it's just a massive set of woods, and there's small bits of technology like an avatar just popped around, and you're running around with laser guns, and you can't do any damage to terrain. Well, you can't really in Tribes. Basically, just ski around on mud on quite a rainy day with massive puddle.
So, for all of that though, it's still quite a pretty map. I mean, they've really tried to push the artwork.
It's a sort of map where you'd assume you'd see like Welsh people who go out on terrain hunts all the time, trying to kill badgers or something.
So, prettiness aside, how does it go in terms of gameplay? Is it good? Are there any interesting changes? I mean, how do the bases and stuff compare to some of their other maps they've released?
I don't know when they're released their other maps, so I'm new to this. This is something you should really cover.
Well, compared to the maps we've already played before Tartarus, what?
Then I would say that the base is much more open, which is refreshing when you're trying to capture the flag. However, one thing I do think they've done slightly wrong with this map is the fact that there's nothing splitting the map. It's just one long expanse, whereas on other ones you have stuff that breaks up the map. But yeah, it's just a new map. It's something I've got used to, and it's not as bad as Temple Runs.
Fair enough. As well, they've also added the new arena map called Hinterlands, based on the same sort of art style. I've not got around to playing it. I mostly capture the flag myself, but that's another thing they've added. They've also added loadouts, which is something the community has been sort of hankering after for quite a while. So that's good to see that they're actually sort of listening to their player base.
If you don't listen to your player base, you end up like, wow. But if you don't do most stuff, you end up like, wow, in the end.
So, various sort of fixes and updates for tribes.
Ascend, by the way. We're not playing the old ones.
So, going to continue chatting about Tribes Ascend here for a moment. How do you think they're handling their free-to-play model? Because obviously that was something quite surprising when they said they were doing a AAA release of quite an old franchise. They're actually planning on letting you play it free. How are they handling that? Is that working?
Sorry, I didn't catch a word of that.
I said, since they're releasing it as a free-to-play model, which was quite surprising with the AAA release, how do you think that's working?
I think it's working incredibly well. I mean, really, they haven't handled microtransactions that well, like the Manco store did. It seems like they've just jumped in and gone, you can buy stuff, which will give us money. And then they've only really given you a £7 option. I haven't bought anything yet. That I actually will. It's a £7 option, which, you know, is worth like practically 2 weapons. It's not very microtransaction-y. But hey, they can't get it all right at the start. It's all about grooming this fine steed of money, which just sounds dirty.
Well, one of the key things which, yeah, it takes a lot of work to sort of get a hold of, but the key thing behind microtransactions is getting that impulse buy, getting something someone isn't quite sure if they want, and then sort of tempting them with, it's so cheap, go on, you know you want it, and sort of that impulse of, alright then, people sort of going for the buy.
I guess if you're going to do that though, you need to inspire desperation to purchase your first item, because even if you want to buy something for like 39 pence something, which like the Manco store did, you need the first thing of, you need to get something which they really want to put money onto this, because 39p though is like completely useless, not useless, it's completely negligible in the real world. Putting 39p onto a game, it makes you think about if you really want to spend this 39p. And 39p is not very much, but when you're going to pay like £2.40 for a gun, you really do think, is this worth it, or am I just wasting my money?
Yeah, I think they've reduced some of the pricings on various things, but they've released it really quite expensive.
I guess they have to though, because really, it's like what happened in America recently, which is not recently, quite a while ago, was they brought out this new medicine, and well, because it's medicine, you have an amazing ability that everyone who needs this wants to buy it to stay alive, depending on the medicine. But they brought it out incredibly cheaply, then they went up by, I think it's a 1,200% increase in price.
Ouch.
And that was over a day that went up like that. After they'd been a month on like 60, for a month on 60 quid, it went straight through the roof. And you're just thinking, that's horrible, but I guess that's the way you do it, is commercialism. Oh no, yeah, commercialism is just funded by this, is the way that it bounces up in a very startling fashion, because someone needs it. Though really you don't need a gun in a game, or you need a gun, but you don't need the better gun. You can play with the, like, you know, rubbish guns. You really are funded by the fact that at the time you feel like you need it to be able to play. And really, you can see people running around with the basic stuff and they can kick your ass.
Talking of free things, guess what piece of DLC was thrown out for free just recently?
What was that?
That was Portal 2's new level creator. As a free piece of DLC, I do believe, thrown out by Valve Software. They immediately let out a tiny patch, not as in they'd let a bunch of bugs through, but just with alternate graphics cards and things. I mean, they're definitely keeping an eye on this thing. That's released, I think it was today. So yeah, that's something quite interesting that's sort of hopped out onto the market. Have you got to use that yet?
I haven't. I didn't realise it came out so soon.
Ah. Talking of Portal, I shall throw a link in the description. But there is a real-life portal turret that someone has actually built, which will track and shoot people.
What? That's unsafe.
It shoots non-lethally, but
any shot is unlethal unless you have the superpowers we mentioned.
I shall survive the third shot. The first two don't kill me.
Also, the fourth and the fifth, yes, as a turret. How do you shoot non-lethally unless you miss, in which case you're still shooting, and it could be pretty lethal?
Well, I assume it either doesn't shoot or it'll just shoot something like paintballs or something. This is made by university students, so it'll be interesting to see.
Oh, it'd be amazing if it was like a frozen water balloon turret, which is incredibly lethal but can't technically kill you unless it's an amazing shot. Just like stings like hell and bruises incredibly badly.
That does sound like it hurts.
So does a bullet. I don't think you should be allowed to make this. This is the sort of thing that you'd be surprised if, like, if you're allowed to have it in real life. If you were like a millionaire who had a prized egg or something weird, which you loved so much, and you couldn't trust security guards because this egg has been around for generations and it's gone off quite a bit. You'd put down one of these turrets. But even then, I don't think you'd be able to get one that was lethal, especially one based off a game which lethalness mixed with amazingness makes deadliness. I don't know what that's measured in.
It's measured in awesomeness.
I thought it'd be measured in dead, because, well, how many people are dead depends on deadly.
Another interesting piece of news is...
Just trying to derail you. You won't just stop, you're just going to keep going with the news. Go on, keep going.
Letting the people hear what they want to hear. So, another thing is Guild Wars 2, the sort of huge MMO to follow up its predecessor, Guild Wars, is opening up a stress test on Monday for all those lucky people. Well, I say lucky, they pre-purchased the game, so Guild Wars 2 is sort of using them and rewarding them at the same time to allow them to stress test the servers. So they're going to get a whole ton of people jumping on the servers and see what breaks.
Are you one of those unfortunate people?
Sadly not. I've not gone around to sort of purchasing the beta. I've been playing a lot of other stuff, but I do believe some of our other friends are, so it'll be good to hear from them to see how it holds up.
Well, the only thing I'd really say is, one thing I wouldn't want to do is, if I purchased the game, pre-purchased it, and they said here's a way of stress testing. If I had to install that, then afterwards I had to uninstall that and then reinstall a new version of the game. I wouldn't have to put myself through all that because, well, I use my computer a lot. I don't really want to have to wait for like a half a day for it to uninstall. The new version, the final version comes out, and you have to install that. You'd be wasting your day, really.
No, apparently they're going to use the same standard game format. They're just going to put everyone onto, I think it's 1, maybe 2 servers, and just like see how many people they can get on and doing things before it piles up and crashes, and sort of see where the stress points are.
Could be interesting if like they had one more guy than they need, and he's just on it by himself on one other server, and this is the only server that crashes.
Well, it may be interesting to then point out the overflow system that Guild Wars uses as you sort of pass between various areas. If the server is getting full, you'll actually end up on a similar instance, but it's overflowed. So they'll sort of casually shuffle you over onto a different server to sort of balance it out and avoid too many people having lag. But
I heard this is layering, which is basically, but instead of like bouncing onto different server, it's basically basically if you walk past a certain point, you'll be put into different layers at the exact same server. So basically, if one's full, yep, you go into the next one. However, if you're in a group or something and you're the only person who's not in that layer, you can teleport to that layer and they'll just bounce someone else.
That's interesting.
It basically just means if you're with someone, you don't get split up by this. But I'm not sure whether that happens.
Could be interesting if there's a whole bunch of people in different groups, but I'm sure they've accounted for that.
How many people are allowed into a group in this game? Because I'm not sure whether in stress testing you can have one guy who leads a massive group of people who are just annoying and makes a group too big for the overflow system, and they won't be able to, like, you know, take that many people.
Well, I've seen people run dungeons in groups and things, so I'm presuming at least 10 or so people.
Fair enough. Are you going to be playing this when you get round to purchasing it?
Yep, I'll probably be picking it up on release. I'm sort of playing some other stuff while it's still in beta.
Besides Tribes, what are you playing?
I've mostly actually just been playing Tribes. I've been a bit too busy to play anything else. I'm trying to get back into sort of back together with my competitive TF2 team, but mostly I've just been playing Tribes.
Have you been playing Minecraft at all?
No, I haven't. Has anything interesting happened with that while I've been playing other stuff?
Well, to be honest, I mean, I never really followed the animals domesticating because I really just thought it was a bit of a waste of time. But the only thing which I really liked is if you're playing creative, you can now use what is effectively, I want that item, and you can just like click and you'll swap the item you're currently holding out with that one. It's handy if you accidentally drop a block that you're using into like lava and it burns. But other than that, it's the same game with a new world height.
Fair enough. Going slightly more upscale here for a minute. Bioshock Infinite, that had quite a sort of mysterious even, trailer a short while ago, is apparently going to be delayed until at least February of next year, and they're not going to show anything at either E3 or Gamescom, which is quite a surprise because those are sort of really big events, good for getting publicity and also people looking to buy your game. So yeah,
great job, guys.
Well, apparently it's a really big game, so they're sort of trying to delay it to get all the work they want done on it. So presumably it should be really, really good to see what they do with it. It's just a shame that they're holding it off.
Premature annunciation. So have you got the email through yet, or are you still going to wait for that? I mean, I know it could be up to a day, which is a bad move. It's just an email. I mean, I could probably set up a server which sends out an email when you like sign up for something.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch it.
Have you got the Pottermore email through?
I shall just check that now. Whilst I'm checking, another interesting bunch of stats off Steam itself.
You keep going. You can't be zero. Come on. Keep going.
Is Dota 2. Have you heard of Dota 2?
No, I have not. What is this?
Dota 2 is. It comes under the group of MOBAs, multiplayer online battle arenas, which is really a very vague term, but it's kind of a quite a unique style of game. Some people like it, some don't. But based off the original StarCraft mod, I believe it was, Defense of the Ancients, they're releasing the next one, and even though it's in beta, yeah, it's second most played game on Steam, so obviously I don't know how that counts for sort of things played off Steam, because they don't like DLC or on console, but Steam, which has a couple of million users, it's doing better than Call of Duty, Skyrim, Counter-Strike. Yeah, it's doing amazingly, and they've not even released the thing yet.
Wow, fair enough. Well, I was just going to say that our good friend Anno 2070 is still up at 35 quid, and the deluxe version up at 40. So I always want to check on that, because if it goes in the sale, I'll probably get it. But at the moment, it still seems like a bit too excessive.
Yeah, which is a shame.
So I'm guessing that you haven't got the email through, have you?
I'm just checking now. Yep, I now have the link.
The adventure begins! And that's it for that episode. Sorry about this being slightly different than the way that, well, it ends, but it's been really nice doing it by myself. That was Rowan there, which you heard. This is me, Cameron, saying, yeah, send us an email or whatever, and this has been the Nerfhammer podcast. Bye.